If you're watching this, chances are good you are concerned about government surveillance, especially in light of the increasingly heavy hand of ICE agents in Minneapolis. If you're looking for practical steps you can take that can actually offer you some degree of protection, you've come to the right place. Lately, there's been a lot of scary discussion that makes authoritarian governments sound like they have superpowers. Like they can see everything, know everything, and stop anything before it even starts. One example you may have heard about is a piece of spyware called Pegasus. It can infect a phone just by sending a text message, no clicking required. Stories like this make it sound like there's nothing you can do. That resistance is basically futile. That's frightening. But the reality is more complicated and more hopeful than that. Here's the first thing to keep in mind. Nearly 80 million people voted against Donald Trump. Hundreds of millions have criticized him online. Tens of millions have attended protests like the nationwide No Kings rallies. Millions have participated in organizing of one kind or another. And even in the most intense confrontations, like protests involving ICE in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Minneapolis, we have not seen anything resembling mass arrests. No government has demonstrated the capacity to crack down on anything close to that scale. That doesn't mean there's zero risk, but it does mean there is real safety in numbers. Second, we already have evidence that the federal government is not particularly good at becoming a surveillance state. Take ICE. ICE is not meeting its own detention and deportation goals. That's why we're seeing broad, highly visible operations in concentrated areas instead of what the law actually calls for, targeted enforcement. Raiding courthouses works because ICE knows with certainty that specific people will be in a specific place at a specific time. It's the lowest hanging fruit. The same pattern shows up elsewhere. Recent nationwide manhunts for high-profile suspects have relied heavily on tips from the public and old-fashioned police work, not some all-seeing digital dragnet. So yes, advanced surveillance tools exist, but they are not magic, and they are not scalable in the way people fear. Which brings us back to Pegasus. Pegasus is real, and if the government decides to specifically target you, there is very little you can do to stop them from eventually getting access to your data. But that kind of targeting is rare for a simple reason. It's expensive. Using tools like Pegasus can cost tens of thousands of dollars per device. Hardening a phone with better security practices can raise that cost dramatically, sometimes by orders of magnitude. At that point, it becomes something governments reserve for a very small number of high-priority targets. That's the key idea I want to focus on here. The goal of practical digital security is not to become invisible. It's to raise the cost. Even if a government somehow collected enormous amounts of data on millions of people, it would still face a bottleneck: analysis. Over and over again, governments show that they cannot meaningfully process the data they already have, even with advanced software. Which is why most real-world surveillance relies on something much simpler: metadata. Metadata is not the content of your messages. It's everything around them: who you communicate with, when, how often, from where, and using which services. Cell phone providers, internet providers, apps, and websites all generate this information automatically. Metadata is powerful because it reveals patterns. If the government suspects a group of criminal activity, metadata can show who meets regularly, who connects different clusters of people, and who looks like a hub. From there, it can decide where to apply pressure and where to dig deeper. So the most effective mass surveillance countermeasures are the ones that disrupt patterns. This is where simple tools actually matter. A VPN, for example, obscures your physical location when you use websites or most apps. Imagine a large group of people in the same place all visiting the same site at the same time. Without a VPN, that pattern is obvious. With one, the pattern is scattered. Could the government still investigate further? Sure, but now it has to know where to look. And at scale, that becomes very hard. VPNs help more for organizing, browsing, and research than for real-time physical movement. It's important to understand the limits here. Your phone's location is still visible to your cell provider, which is why, if you're attending a protest where clashes are likely, the most effective option is often the simplest one: leave your phone at home. Or turn it completely off and bring it only for emergencies. If your phone is on, it is generating data. There's no way around that. What about reading your messages? That's where end-to-end encryption comes in. With end-to-end encryption, only the devices involved can read the content of a message, not your provider, not an app company, and not the government without extraordinary effort. Signal encrypts text messages and calls. Proton Mail can encrypt email. These tools are not perfect, but they massively reduce the usefulness of mass surveillance by denying easy access to content. Again, the theme is cost. These tools don't stop a government that has decided to target you personally. What they do is make broad, automated monitoring far less effective. That's why this comes with an important rule of thumb. Never say something on a digital device that you wouldn't want read in a hostile context. Digital security reduces risk. It doesn't eliminate it. So let's boil this down. If you want to reduce exposure to mass surveillance, there are a few practical steps that actually matter. Leave your phone at home when possible. This is one of the highest impact, lowest tech choices in protest contexts. If not, turn it off and always use a lock screen. Use encrypted communication tools like Signal and Proton Mail. Use a VPN. Delete apps with excessive permissions or limit what they can access. Some people go further by installing privacy-focused operating systems, but that's a topic for another video. And we will cover all of this in more detail, one tool at a time, in future videos. If that's useful to you, like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know what you want covered next. I'll leave you with this. Authoritarian surveillance doesn't work because it knows everything. It works because it's cheap, quiet, and scalable. The goal of smart precautions isn't to disappear. It's to make surveillance expensive, clumsy, and selective. When power has to spend more resources, take more risks, and justify itself more openly, it becomes weaker, not stronger. That's not paranoia. That's strategy. Stay grounded, stay lawful, and stay smart.